Who will be Manchester United's next permanent manager? That's the question we'll be attempting to answer in this video. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Thank you so much to all our new community members that have recently subscribed to the channel. We do appreciate your love and support. Continue watching, share, like and comment on our content so that we can continue to grow. For our usual suspects, your love does not go unnoticed. Now, ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left Manchester United in the summer of 2013 after winning them the Premier League title, Manchester United have gone through a series of 10 managers, both permanent and interims, trying to find the perfect fit for Old Trafford. However, that search seems to be futile, given that all the managers that they've hired have all left subsequently after being sacked. So, today we'll be attempting to answer the question of who could be Manchester United's next manager. Here are the options that we'll be looking at. But before we get into the options that Man United would be considering, we'll have to take a briefer, trip down memory lane and remind ourselves of those that have been in charge. After the departure of Sir Alex Ferguson in 2013, Manchester United appointed former Everton manager David Moyes on a 6-year contract. But the Scottish international never lived the day to see his first anniversary because he was sacked and replaced by an interim Ryan Giggs. After that season, they appointed Louis van Gaal, who won them the FA Cup in 2016, but was nonetheless shown the exit before the appointment of Jose Mario Felix Mourinho. The former Chelsea manager guided them to a second-place finish in the Premier League and won them the EFL Cup or the Carabao Cup, as well as the 2017 UEFA Europa League when they beat Ajax by 2-0 in the final. For the subsequent season, it is believed that the Red Devils denied to give Jose Mourinho his requirements in as far as transfers were concerned, and he never lived to see his second anniversary as Manchester United manager because in December 2018, he was equally sacked. When he was sacked, they appointed a former club striker as well as club legend in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as an interim. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer performed so well that within 3 months they had handed him a 3-year contract. Fast forward, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer he too was sacked. That was in November 2021. When he got sacked in November 2021, Michael Carrick took over as caretaker, guiding the club through 3 matches in which they beat up against Villarreal by 2-0, had a 1-1 draw against Chelsea, also beat up against Arsenal by 3-2 before stepping away to pave the way for Rafa Rangnick, who took charge of the club as an interim until the end of the season for the 2021-2022 Premier League season. At the end of that season, of course, Ralf Rangnick had to leave and they appointed Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag guided them through the 2022-2023 campaign, the 2023-2024 campaign, in which he respectively won the EFL Cup in his debut campaign, as well as the FA Cup in his second season. In his third season, he was sacked in November, and Ruud van Nistelrooy, the former club striker, took over as an interim or as a caretaker manager before the appointment of Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim, after 1 year and 4 months in the job, was equally shown the exit. And now, as we speak, it's Michael Carrick back in charge as an interim until the end of the season. So far, he's been nothing short of miraculous because he has won the club 4 consecutive Premier League games. On that run, they've beaten up against their Manchester rivals in Man City by 2-0 in the Manchester Derby at Old Trafford, went away and beat up against Arsenal by 3-2 before winning against Fulham by a similar scoreline. Just as we speak, they beat up against Tottenham by 2-0. But then the question remains, who will be Manchester United's next manager? So here on Football Tribe UG channel, we've compiled for you a list of managers that could be the potential next permanent managers for Manchester United as they go out to seek for their next gaffer. In their search for a new manager, they have some considerations to make. It is being widely reported that they want to prioritize a certain level of Premier League experience while also needing to strike a balance in what is relatively believed to be a new breed of managers. It could be somebody young, somebody in their 40s, somebody in their 50s, but possibly maybe not somebody in their 70s or late 60s, which is where Carlo Ancelotti falls, even though there is significant interest. Will he be appointed? We do not know just yet. So, among their options is none other than Michael Carrick. The 44-year-old former England midfielder is currently in charge of the role, and I believe this is his chance to audition for the role. If you are given an employment contract, consider Michael Carrick's interim spell as your probationary period. Usually, when you get a new job, they will give you a probationary period of 3 to 6 months, depending on company. In this particular case, Michael Carrick has the opportunity to audition for the main event. And so far, we can say he's done so well. He's done so perfectly well that Manchester United fans in some sections have started dreaming and hoping for the Premier League title because they're only 12 points behind the table leaders Arsenal with 13 games left to play. Mathematically, we know that it's very plausible that Manchester United can win the Premier League title. Whether they will go ahead and win it, that's another whole different story. But you and I can know one thing with absolute certainty, that his bosses in Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Omar Barreda, the CEO, and Jason Wilcox, the sporting director, are not demanding that Michael Carrick win them the Premier League title. In any case, they are hoping for a best case scenario where they finish within the top 4 and qualify for UEFA Champions League next season, something that will be very critical to their finances. So, as they consider who their next permanent manager will be, unfortunately, even though it's been widely stressed that he is only there as an interim, we cannot leave anything to chance to think that if he does complete his audition perfectly well or with glowing colors, then he may be considered for the permanent role. In any case, if he does well as an interim, what's not to say that he goes and convinces the board, perhaps in an interview, that he is capable of taking on the mantle. So the 44-year-old is there for the taking. Previously, he's managed Middlesbrough, but he has no prior Premier League experience anywhere else other than at Manchester United, where he's been caretaker and now interim manager. So, next in line for me is Enzo Maresca. Like I said, Manchester United are looking for a manager with a bit of Premier League experience. Enzo Maresca, the 45-year-old gaffer, has Premier League experience, having managed Chelsea for 1.5 seasons almost before his sacking in January. The former Chelsea manager guided Chelsea to a 4th place finish last season, won them the UEFA Conference League, as well as the inaugural expanded FIFA Club World Cup when they beat up against Paris Saint-Germain by 3-0 in the final. He has worked before under Pep Guardiola, so that comes with its credence in its own way, but also did manage Leicester City in the Championship and guided them to their promotion into the 2024-2025 Premier League season, having won the Championship. While at it's from there that Chelsea snapped him. So I thought in guiding Chelsea to a 4th place finish, in addition to winning a UEFA Conference League and subsequently the FIFA Club World Cup, that in itself gave him the glowing recommendation. I thought that was winning capital enough for him to go through what would have been a turbulent period for him at Chelsea. But nonetheless, he never managed to survive that, and he was shown the exit and has since been replaced by Liam Rosenior. So Enzo Maresca is a strong candidate for consideration for Manchester United on who could be their next manager. Now, there's also a cohort of Premier League managers who could be out of work in the summer. And among those is Crystal Palace's Oliver Glasner. This one is known for his success with Eintracht Frankfurt in 2022 when he guided them to a UEFA Europa League title. Then he came to Crystal Palace, now 2.5 years in the job almost. Whereas there are still question marks whether he will see out the remainder of this season with Crystal Palace, one thing is with absolute certainty that at the end of the season, the two parties will be parting ways because he won't be renewing his contract with the Eagles. He does fancy a 3-4 2-1 kind of system, which Ruben Amorim deployed for a majority of his spell with the Red Devils. Whereas that in itself is not the pass key for him getting the role. He is widely considered as a potential candidate because there seems to be an admiration for the manager that guided Crystal Palace to their first major title when they beat up against Man City in the 2025 FA Cup final at Wembley before beating up against Liverpool in post-match penalties to win the Community Shield at the start of the 2025-2026 Premier League season. Then, Fulham's Marco Silva is also a candidate being considered. He does have Premier League experience, having managed Fulham for quite some time. And let's not forget, he did have a role with Watford. He did have a role with Everton. even though for Everton, things did not go according to plan. The other candidate is FC Bournemouth's Andoni Iraola, guided them to their highest placed finish in the Premier League with the highest points. I think they had a tally of about 56 points last campaign. So he's a widely and highly regarded manager. The Spanish gaffer has also been pointed in the direction that he could be in consideration for the Real Madrid job, where Alvaro Albiola took charge as an interim following the sacking of Xabi Alonso. So those are three Premier League managers who are going to be out of contract at the end of the season, in Andoni Iraola, Oliver Glasner, and Michael Silva. So they could all be under consideration. Speaking of Xabi Alonso, ever since leaving Real Madrid, quote unquote, under mutual consent, he's been out without work. He was considered for the Liverpool job before it was given to Arne Slot, because he decided to stay with Bayer Leverkusen before getting the job for Real Madrid. Whereas he has no Premier League experience, he has proven that he can be a very able manager. He guided Bayer Leverkusen to a German Bundesliga title and a DFB Pokal title in the 2023-2024 campaign, while they went unbeaten throughout the entire season. The subsequent season, he saw them finish second to Bayern Munich. Now, in the same year, 2023-2024 season, they reached the finals of the UEFA Europa League before losing to Atlanta by 3-0, which was the only loss of that campaign. So Xabi Alonso has proven that he is capable. Whereas things did not work out between him and Real Madrid, it's not largely the results that cost him the job. Because in any case, by the time he left Real Madrid, they were still second in the La Liga standings. Only that his undoing was losing to Barcelona in the Supercopa Hispana final by 3-2. A team that had humiliated them the previous campaign when they beat them on 4 different occasions, in the finals of the Copa del Rey, in the finals of the Supercopa Hispana, and home and away in the Spanish La Liga, which culminated into the parting ways of Carlo Ancelotti. So Xabi Alonso is the other name that could be considered. But speaking of Carlo Ancelotti, his name has equally been mentioned around the circles of Manchester United. However, the 66-year-old Italian gaffer could be deemed a bit old-fashioned, because with all his experience, I think his experience is without question, having managed teams like AC Milan, Real Madrid on 2 occasions, teams like Napoli, teams like Chelsea, where he won the Premier League title in 2010, teams like Everton, teams like Bayern Munich, teams like Paris Saint-Germain. So really, his experience is without question by far the most successful manager in Europe, having won, I think, 5 UEFA Champions League titles with AC Milan, with Real Madrid. That's how good he is. Currently with the Brazilian national team, he will be under consideration, but he may be a bit further down the pecking order given his age and his old-fashioned style in comparison to these other managers. Another critical, now guys, remember, these ones are in no particular order, but another manager that will be seriously considered is England's Thomas Tuchel. We know he's well proven. We know he has Premier League experience, having managed Chelsea between 2021 and 2022 when he guided them to the triumph of the UEFA Champions League title in 2021. You remember that goal by Kai Havertz as they beat up against Manchester City in the final by 0-0. Yes, it was Thomas Tuchel in charge. In addition to that, he's managed teams like Bayern Munich, that was in 2023 to 2024. He's managed teams like Paris Saint-Germain, He's managed teams like Borussia Dortmund before, which he had been at Mainz 04. Of course, he started his coaching career at Augsburg 2. That's where he started it all. So he has proven he can win. He was at Paris Saint-Germain between 2018 and 2020, where he won league titles. When he part ways with PSG, of course, he took some time off before joining Chelsea. So now we're talking about a manager who, in the summer of 2024, Manchester United spoke to. They interviewed him, considering him possibly for the role. Now, for those of you that care to remember, after the 2023-2024 campaign, Manchester United were not sure whether to retain Erik ten Hag or to continue with him. Remember, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his Ineos management group had just come in Manchester United and were taking charge of the footballing affairs. They did their assessment while assessing Erik ten Hag's campaign, in which he had guided them to the triumph of the FA Cup in 2024, in which they beat their rivals Man City by 2-1 in the final. Jeremy Doku scored what turned out to be a mere consolation for Manchester City, while Kobbie Mainoo and Casemiro, I think, were the goal scorers for Manchester United. So, while assessing his campaign, they were also interviewing potential managers. During that time is when they spoke to Thomas Tuchel, among other candidates, who included Mauricio Pochettino, Ian McKenna of Ipswich Town, and possibly Thomas Frank, who is currently at Tottenham Hotspur. So they spoke to candidates before resolving that Erik ten Hag should be continued with. They went on to activate his clause to extend his contract for a further year. Unfortunately for them, before the end of the 2024-2025 Premier League season, they sacked him. It was as early as November. So, Pochettino saw Thomas Tuchel is a strong candidate. Who is the other strong candidate? You've heard me fanboy it a bit, mentioning Mauricio Pochettino. Yes, he is considered a plausible candidate. We know that he does have Premier League experience. We know that he is proven himself relatively well at the highest level. He started his coaching career in 2009 at Espanyol before leaving in 2012 and then subsequently joining Southampton in 2013. He managed Southampton for a season and a half, and in his first full season guided them to their highest Premier League place finish since 2002-2003, and that was in the 2013-2014 campaign when they finished 8th on the Premier League table. After that season, Tottenham wooed him away, and he went to Tottenham, where he spent 5 years between 2014 and 2019 before he was shown the exit. So he does have Premier League experience. After leaving Tottenham Hotspur, subsequently in 2021 he landed a job at Paris Saint-Germain for 1.5 years. So he was there and won a league title. So he is that good. In 2023-2024, he managed Chelsea, a very turbulent Chelsea side who had gone through the parting ways of Roman Abramovich, and Tony Body and his partners had taken over. He managed to guide them to a 5th place finish before they part ways with him and appointed Enzo Maresca. Before Pochettino's appointment, they had gone through a turbulent period where, after parting ways with Thomas Tuchel, that's at Chelsea, they appointed managers like Graham Potter, Frank James Lampard, but it all did not work out well, So, Mauricio Pochettino will be in consideration for Manchester United. He's a highly well-regarded coach. Then, among others, is Ian McKenna of Ipswich Town, the 39-year-old Northern Irish manager currently at Ipswich, was also in consideration in the summer of 2024. Man United still hold him in high regard, but may not be a leading contender for the role. Thomas Frank is no longer in consideration because he's currently at Tottenham Hotspur, where things are far from good. So, in any case, his management of Tottenham, at least for so far this season, in as far as the Premier League is concerned, does not give him a good resume to be considered for the Manchester United role. The other candidate that will be considered is German national team's manager, Julian Nagelsmann. We know he's a very good manager, having managed teams like Hoffenheim, having managed teams like RB Leipzig, having managed teams like Bayern Munich, where he won a Bundesliga title before his sacking in 2023. He's still a young manager, Julian Nagelsmann, and he's well regarded. About 38 years of age? Because I think he became one of the youngest managers to manage in the UEFA Champions League at the age of about 31 and about 52 or 53 days. Also, according to recent reports, it has come out that Manchester United have spoken to representatives of Luis Enrique. Now, Luis Enrique, we also know, is a highly regarded Spanish manager in the crimes of world football. After leaving Celta Vigo, he went on to manage Barcelona, where he won a treble in 2015. So, last season, 2024-2025, he guided PSG to every cup competition final that they participated in and only lost one. That was against Chelsea in the FIFA Club World Cup, won the French League title, guided PSG to their first ever UEFA Champions League title, among other trophies, throughout the course of the campaign, including the UEFA Super Cup, in which they beat up against Tottenham in post-match penalties that preceded a 2-2 draw. So, really, Luis Enrique is the other considerable candidate. Now, among the candidates that are in high consideration but have no Premier League experience is Luis Enrique and Julian Nagelsmann. The others have some relative level of Premier League experience. Those two do not have Premier League experience. So if you are to ask me that in what order would you place them for the ideal candidate for the Man United job, I'd say Luis Enrique, if he's open to coming. 2, Thomas Tuchel. 3, in third place, I'd go with Mauricio Pochettino. In fourth place, I'd go with Enzo Maresca. In fifth place, I'd go with Carlo Ancelotti. I think for me, those would be the top 5 most candidates. And then, Michael Carrick, for me, will come ahead of Andoni Iraola, Marco Silva, and ahead of Oliver Glasner. Not because he's a proven winner, but because he is been at Manchester United before. He knows the ins and outs of the club. Whether that's an advantage or a disadvantage, because we know that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had that advantage before, but in the end, it also did not work out perfectly well. But as opposed to taking a bet on Marco Silva, I'd rather take a bet on Michael Carrick. But anyways, it's just one man's opinion. Your thoughts on who you think should be the next Manchester United manager? Leave me a comment down in the comment section. Do not forget to like, comment, share, and also subscribe to the channel if you're seeing us for the very first time. Stay blessed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye for now.